who all is going to actually show up tonight. So you've made your groups and you've started working towards your small grant that I gave you a much bigger budget for than what they call for on there. And you've identified a target to use. You've created a needs assessment. If you cannot see the needs assessment, you need to make yourself a research group. If you did not make yourself a group, which is on the left-hand side of the page, you cannot see the assignment. If they're labeled as a group assignment, you just can't see them. So if you're not seeing them, that means that you're not in a group, even if it's a group of one, which is fine. So for the last week you started, hopefully, and this week you're continuing to craft the research and design components of your grant proposal. So basically, the easiest way to think about your grant, in my opinion, is to think about it as having two faces, like one of those little masks that have the two sides on it. The first one is facing out towards the people. That is like the public facing one. That is what you're going to be doing as your service. You're going to provide professional development training. You're going to be providing books for kids. You're going to be providing STEM experiences in an after-school setting. You're going to be, teaching kids how to ride bikes and change and fix them and change chains on them. Whatever it is that your project is, that you are, doing this good for the community, that is meeting the objectives of the foundation and those kind of things, that's the front side of it. That is what your project is going to have objectives for. You are going to, reach 300 students with this. You are going to teach 15 people how to read. You're going to have any of these different objectives that you've been identifying. Your project one is the one that's facing kind of the people. That's what they're going to see for that piece of the grant. Typically what will happen then is you also have a way to get your data. And your data is the backwards facing one. And so what you'll be doing with that is the research questions that you're all constructing now, that would be an individual piece of it. And occasionally there will be grants where you'll have two people that are working on the same data or the same data set answering the same question. And a lot of times there will be one overarching that goes over 3 different collection sites if there's 3 people, or 2 different collection sites if there's 2. But one of the things that people will want to know is what each of you have as intellectual capital within the grant. And so each of you will need to have some kind of expertise that you're contributing to, some kind of research question that you have that belongs to you, that you can contribute to, otherwise you're deadwood. And they'll want you to trim your budget, which means usually the unpleasant kind of case of cutting somebody out or reducing their role so that they have less of a role for it, or they're only covering a certain piece of it. So that's the other piece that you need to watch when you have a really large research team, is that your budget blows up really quickly. Because as you start to see when you're crafting your budget, you not only have to count in the cost of the people and personnel and the fringe, which is your benefits on top of it, which can be up to 25%, 12 to 25%, depending on the organization you're working with. But most organizations will also charge a facilities and F&A. Facilities and, it'll come to me. F&A charge, which is like the facilities and the use of the electricity and the heat and the light, and you get to have some office space. All of those kind of things get wrapped up in that charge. For Central Michigan, our charge is 46%. So if my budget is $300,000, I already know that $150,000 of it, almost, quick 50%, goes to the university. Penn State is 56%. Harvard, MIT, Carnegie Mellon University, the other CMU, they tend to run an F&A around 60 to 70%. So if they're getting a budget of $1 million, they're really only getting $300,000 to $400,000 to work with. So that eats up your budget really quickly as well. So what you'll be looking at now, and I will be hitting tomorrow afternoon, all of your research questions and to look how you're doing this. I do not expect you to craft this out in a full-blown research methodology and all of that. I just want to see briefly how you think you would collect your data, how your project would provide you with the sources of your data. For example, if you were doing STEM after school programs or literacy after school programs, you're running some kind of really cool writing workshop with students for, to foster creative thinking and computer literacies, digital literacies on the computer, all of that. No problem. You guys leave whenever you need to leave. I'll record it and post it. Sharon left. So whatever it is that you're doing, looking at how you're going to gather your data. You need program data that says, yes, my program was effective. I reached 100 kids for my digital literacy program, and they created 100 little or 50 little collaborative storybooks with computer illustrations and interactive elements. Okay? For my research then, maybe I am looking at the learning that occurred as the students talked about the design of these books. So how am I going to get that? The program objectives, I can have a survey, I can look at the products, I can ask them a few questions at the end, and that's how I can assess that. How am I going to get the data, or how am I going to get the data for that? How I'm going to get the data for me, for the research piece of it, is kind of like you've been working with your projects. If you're running an intervention, what are you collecting? If you're looking at designing something for your dissertation, what data are you collecting? How are you going to get this? And then building it into this other piece is what makes it a little bit tricky. So if I'm doing this digital literacies project, what am I going to do while the kids are there? Well, maybe I'm going to collect video. Maybe I'm going to install some kind of tracking on their computer that they're using to see what websites they're using. Maybe I'll take pictures of what they've created. Maybe I'll give them a survey. Maybe I'll just ask them an interview question. Whatever it is that I need to gather my data is what I'll be putting into my methodology there. So it's almost like you're going to have two separate pieces that you write up for this, the front-facing piece and then your research piece as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So to clarify, I think Joy, Tiffany, Sharon and I are the only group
yes.
Amongst us all. So are you saying that, I think I understand what you're saying is that each of us, all four of us, are going to investigate from a research perspective a different aspect of the one project. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Sure. And it can be small. It can be small.
Yep. Right. So collectively we need to think about what data we'll collect and how, and then individually we plan how we're going to use different bits of that data to answer our respective questions. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, the penny's dropping.
I meant to tell you guys last week, but I didn't explicate that I was going to have class last week, so nobody came.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense now when you were saying for each of you to post a research question, but keep in mind the other members' work. And I think because I wasn't understanding that aspect, now I get it.
Yeah, so if we were doing the digital literacies thing that I was looking at, you being interested in design, you might look at student creativity in their work. Sharon, being an English professional, might be looking at the changes in writing over the 3-week workshop that you're doing with them. So she might be looking at it from an English standpoint. Tiffany is also in your group, right? Right, okay, so maybe Tiffany is looking at the teacher side of it. How is this teacher having this presence within the classroom, and using the online resources? And then who else is in your group? Joy? Okay, so maybe Joy is looking at the simulation materials that were developed. Simulation materials that were developed to show the students how to do all of these little online creativity pieces. So each of you would have this little chunk of it that build to the big project, and that's how you get a really good project developed where everybody has their own expertise and everyone has their own piece. Now for Erica and Derek, who have their own projects, it's great because you don't have anybody that you have to piece it with, and it's terrifying because you have to do it all on your own. So a lot of times what will happen in corporate settings, which I think is funny because you both are more along that side, with corporate settings, a lot of times you will have the trainer, and they'll be looking only at the content knowledge that's developed whenever you're looking at the training. And then the company will look at it from an evaluation standpoint, and they'll be evaluating the trainer, evaluating the curriculum, evaluating the learning that comes out of there. But the person that's developing it is looking more at like the effectiveness of the curricula, or they're looking at other questions similar to the ones that the research people had as they're doing it. And I mean, if you hire somebody to do your curriculum presentation, then it's a lot easier for you to do all of the pieces instead of having to do, it's easier for you to do the research piece and the evaluation of the program piece when it's not you that has to also be teaching it or running it. So do just think of that whenever you're starting to build your budget, that you might want to hire somebody to do your presentation or your training or the implementation of that. And that's very common practice. And you would hire them at, you know, X weeks pay, or you would hire them at, you know, $25 an hour for 40 hours for 1 week of training plus 40 hours for prep, and however you want to do that. But that's a really common way that people do that, is to not be the one having to put it on if you're the only one running the whole project. So that makes sense for you.
Okay. Question.
Sure.
Okay, so for the research part that I need to write it with my research question, am I just telling you what data I'm going to collect and like how I would collect it, or do I need to like look up research studies and give you the background and all that?
We are not going to make this super long. So you will have a little bit of a lit review that you guys will do jointly. For your piece of it, I would say you're going to maybe incorporate 3 paragraphs. You could have a little bit of literature, find 1 or 2 studies, pull some stuff from there for it. And then you'll have whatever the data is that you're collecting and how you're analyzing it. Those pieces will go in, but it'll all fold together. And I didn't give you a whole lot of space in your document. I mean, it's like for right now, the page limit on this piece right now, I don't want it any more than 8 pages, and some of you are long writers. You're double spacing, which doesn't give you much space either. If you're alone, you need 3 pages or a little bit more. If it goes long, it's fine. So for the 4 of you, you're going to have, like, see, 2 would be 4 and 8, 3 is 5, 4 is, you're going to have 6 pages. So 6 pages to tell me a little bit about the study, each of your research questions, and the overall, like, proposal of what you're going to be doing. You're not going to have a whole lot of space. So she's fine. She's fine. You're not going to have a whole lot of space to do that. So I'm not asking you to have a whole lot of background information or a whole lot of literature review or anything like that for it. It's going to be, you know, if you, for 6 pages for 4 of you to, I mean, you can go a little longer, but for the 4 of you to come up with what your project is and then to tell me what each of the pieces that you're doing are, it's going to be pretty tight. So you're going to have to be really concise with what you're doing. Does that answer? So your answer is yes, but not a whole lot.
And that's what we're turning in for Sunday. Or is it the budget that we're turning in for Sunday? Or did I miss this and it was supposed to be turned in this week?
I think we're off on weeks, so we'll be a little bit flexible. I wanted to have your budget too, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't get to talk to anybody last week, so, you know, we're a little bit wiggly on it. That'll just mean that we'll condense another week up in here. One of the weeks, honestly, is you identify people that could work with you, and you're going to say, you know, how would you work with them? So, I mean, that doesn't require a whole lot of research, because you probably had an idea in mind as you were starting this, the kind of people that you would work with and who you would want to have as partners. Explicating why you maybe want them, you know, I want let's see, I want, you know, Nina Jablonski to work with me on the project that I'm working on now because she's an expert in anthropology and DNA genetics with personal learning with students. I want her to work with me, obviously, because of that. So how am I going to ask her? I'm going to write her a nice little letter and ask her if she'll do it, and I'm going to have her write me a letter. So when you're crafting your partners later on, there's a week that's pretty short like that, and I'll just cut the assignment and make you guys just tell me who you're going to work with and why, versus writing them all letters and pretending to get us caught back up. So basically, the overview for the class now that has changed will be you're writing a large group project now, even if you're a group of one. This will be ending up about 15 pages when you're done with all the pieces that have to be incorporated. You will come up with an individual project that you will do. I have a template. It can go along with your dissertation or something else. It will be 5 pages plus a budget, and that'll be what you turn in for your final project. And we'll do Shark Tank the last week of class. So, let's see who gets funded with all your pretend Monopoly money.
Okay, now I'm really confused.
Okay.
So are we
So
only
right
doing
now-
this project now?
Right now, you're only working on this. The
Okay.
last 2 weeks of class, you're going to have to write me a little 5-page paper that's outlining a proposal for you individually by yourself, which some of you will do 2 of them this time, some of you are this group. For right now, for weeks 10 and 11, the first thing I need from you guys is your group assignment. You turned in your needs analysis now, your needs statement. You are going to turn me in a group assignment. The group assignment will give me the topic of your project. You can change it a little bit if you need to based on what you've learned tonight. A designer plan for the activities, that's the front-facing piece. For the project, the research piece of it, each one of you will have your own research question. You'll identify what you need to collect, how you think you might want to assess it or evaluate it. And then that would be like brief research questions, data that you're going to collect, how you might want to analyze it. Are you going to do a statistical analysis? Are you going to be using a thematic analysis with some coding? Are you following a framework from a study that you already know about? Those kind of things. And then a brief timeline of, if you're going to do this in the spring, you know, in January, this is what you'll do. In February, this is what you would have to do. In March, this is what you would have to do. Okay, and so just for telling you for future use, that a lot of the grants, you turn them in the fall, they tell you about it in about April or May, and they start rolling out funding at the end of the summer. So in real life, if you're ever doing this, that's typically the timeline.
Could I just clarify, Jen,
Yeah.
on our group homepage, I see the submission link for the needs statement and the submission link for week 10 and 11 group assignment. What's the first one again that's labeled group assignment?
The group assignment is what we were just talking about tonight. It's kind of the overview of it. It's up to 8 pages.
Oh, that's not the third link? Week 10 and 11 group assignment?
I see.
We've got 3 links under group assignments.
Okay, I'm looking. Okay, I don't have that.
Oh, okay. So we might just ignore the first one.
Well, okay.
And
So in week 9, I have one that says group assignment, like make your group, and then it says needs statement, and that's the first group assignment. And then if you go back out of week 9 and back out to the folders, here, hold on.
so I'm actually on my group's homepage.
Okay, so you are in
Group 1.1. Yeah, the top one.
And this is why you weren't seeing it, because it gave us a group set with it.
See the 3 links?
Yeah, and I don't know where. That's the budget. Okay, this is the
Okay.
budget. I'll change the name of it. I don't know. I didn't
So,
realize it was confusing.
okay, so we've got 3 things to work on: the budget, the needs
Budget
statement,
on
and
Yeah, the needs statement is first.
yeah,
Your project proposal will be second.
yep.
The
And then
budget
the
will be next.
Okay.
So get the get this piece of it right here. This piece needs done next.
Okay.
So this is what you guys will be doing next. Once you have this done and you can see what you're planning on doing, then we can write the budget.
Yep.
So we'll make the budget next week.
All right.
And I'll change the name of it so that it makes sense instead of being just that.
And also, can you tell us in there about the budget narrative? Like, what's the format? Like, do you just say, we want chairs because of this? You know, or does it be like a paper or?
Okay, so the budget, whenever you're doing it, I thought I had papers in there for it. When you are looking at, I'm finding a budget statement right now to show you exactly what it looks like. And here's my subaward. Okay, so all right. So this is what my subaward budget looks like. This is only the pieces that the one school district that I'm working with is actually getting paid for. So this is their subaward. It'd be salaries and benefits and costs. These are the years. The administrator, they're having 2% of their salary at $50,000 for each of the camps that they're running. The instructor assistant, the number of hours that they're allotted for each of the hours that they'll be working in camps, and then the total. Fringe is 12%. And I thought I had these loaded in there, ones, maybe not these ones exactly, but similar ones. If I do not, I will make sure it's in there. Fringe is on top of their salary. That would be their benefits. That's at a set rate. Central Michigan's is about 27.6% or 26.7%, that kind of thing. And then things that you're paying out to the students, for example, meals, it could be busing, travel, those kinds of things. And they go into here. F&A is the facilities and the extra costs that are set amount. That's where Central Michigan's is 46, Penn State's is 56. Other ones are higher. And if you don't have a grant set or a grant set amount set by the government, then you get 10%. So this is what the budget looks like.
Jen, how does F&A apply to me, the corporate setting? I mean,
You're probably going to get a
should I
10%.
ask the company?
If you don't know it off the top of your head, then I would say it's going to be set at a 10%, or you can use the Central Michigan rate. Okay. This is a budget justification. Time for advertising and recruitment and number of control students, number of hours for the instructor and what they're expected to do. It's just explaining each of the items that were in the budget. And once you see a couple of them, you'll start to realize that they're standard template language. So you can kind of just work with it from what is given in the sample pieces that I've given you, or other ones if you happen to see them online. But it's basically just describing the scope of work, which is also another thing that sometimes you'll be asked to provide. Okay. So this is a scope of work, and it outlines basically what they're going to do. And you can see that it aligns. It aligns with the budget statement justification that they were given. The wrong one. This is Grand Rapids Museum, but you kind of it outlines what they're expected to do, and that aligns with what they're getting paid. And the government uses this just to make sure that it's reasonable, because they don't want to pay any extra or pay for things that they don't feel are justifiable. And some of the grants will actually say you cannot buy computer equipment, you cannot buy this or that within the grant, and then they do use this to make sure that you're not purchasing anything. Like I said, I'll make sure that pieces are dropped in there. If they're not in there now, I thought they were, but if they're not, then I will make sure that there's pieces in there. Or it might be in another.
Oh, Lisa.
Oh, I'm in a video conference. I'm listening in, and I'm heading to an engineering meeting. Can I catch you later today?
Okay. So, do you have any other questions about what's going on overall? Okay. So I do want to hear from you. The dissertation, go ahead.
Are these all the pieces for this group project?
All of them? No.
Okay.
They're all of them that you have up there so far.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. There's the narrative to write that tells your story, that tells you why I should be able to give you the money, why you have to. Site literature review, goals and objectives. These will be summarized from the pieces that you've already pulled. They need to be summarized in an overfacing document. Okay. And I'll just change it. That'll be week 13 because you're already most of the pieces done. You need to build a timeline. You'll be building out a Gantt chart and looking for letters of commitment, and then deciding how you're going to keep this project going after you're done with your funding. And then this week, which I can't get to, hold on. Sorry, my pictures of you guys is covering up everything. And then on week 15, 16, that'll be your individual grant proposal. So it's going to be a short paper, basically, that outlines an idea that you have. I'll be giving you all a prompt. You'll be writing it on your own. You'll be constructing all the grant pieces and turning that in. And then during week 16, which is the finals week, we're going to do a short presentation where you're going to have 3 minutes to pitch your ideas or 4 minutes to pitch your ideas, and everybody will vote with their play money on how much money they're willing to give you, and we'll see who wins at the end. So that's fun. Not real competition. Although I could always mail everybody candy, except maybe Latha. It would probably be kind of yucky by the time I got to her. Okay. I don't have these ones turned on yet, even though I know some of you like to look ahead and see ahead, because we've been playing with the weeks, with getting the comps pieces written and then getting everybody into this and into the swing of it, with the confusion over if we were having a class or not, if we were, what week we were on. Based on that, I've made some changes on the dates, but I don't know that they were recognized. I don't know there was miscommunication. So I closed off some of the weeks of it just to make sure that you didn't think that there was too much that was up to be able to handle it to start with. It's not that you can't handle a lot of things, but just to keep it reasonable amounts of information in front of you. Okay,